So let's keep looking at some stuff here. We've talked about how farms expanded in the West. We also talked about how industry expanded based on technology growth. But here's the thing that we have to remember is that not only do all these things happen, but there's also other things that go on. Um, as we take on more immigrants, our cities grow. As people decide that the country life isn't going to work, our cities grow. And as the cities grow, a lot of things happen. Think about this. When you have one person in an area, the amount of trash that they create doesn't fill up that space that quickly. But when you put a whole bunch of people in that area, it creates an issue. Or think of this, better yet. Ever gone tenting? You have a tent that's made for four people. If there's just one of you inside that tent for four people, you got all kinds of space. Do whatever you want, lay wherever you want, do whatever you want. All of a sudden, you try to cram five people in that tent because you have to. Next thing you know, you're laying on top of each other. It creates an issue, as you can imagine. So, what we're going to do is take a look at some pictures here that help us kind of understand the trouble with urbanization. Okay, this first picture that you can see here, what issue do you see? Okay, take a second here. I'm going to shut up for 30 seconds or so. Think in your mind, even say out loud if you want, what issues you potentially see in this picture. Okay, try to zoom in there for you. You can see a lot of trash in the streets, and it looks like there's flooding. And it even says right here, Dayton, Ohio flood. And it's got a year, it looks like 1913. As you can see, lots of trash and nowhere to go with it. So when there's a flood, all this trash is now floated into the middle of the street. Well, why is that? Why would the trash flow into the middle of their downtown district? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if their downtown was lower than everybody. But also the question then becomes, well, why is the trash in a place where it's able to be picked up and floated into the city streets anyway? You know, is the dump just a big pile out to the north of town? Um, are they burying their trash? What are they doing with it? So this is something that is obviously thought about and was a big problem. Okay. Obviously, this type of stuff is going to create not just trash everywhere, which is unappealing to look at, but it literally is filling everything so you can't get anywhere. And imagine the kind of disease that will eventually back up with all of that. Here's the next one I like to look at. How many people do you see here? How many people do you see? There's three at least, a mother and two babies, plus the person taking the picture. There might be another baby in here. I used to have a picture. Oh no, it's this. I used to have a picture up here where there was like nine people living in an apartment. And this one, look at this house. Look at this apartment. What challenges do you see that you would be? What challenges would you face? What would be really difficult about living in a place like that? Baby's bed, your bed. There's the stove to do all the cooking. This is a one room apartment, maybe two. And you have two young kids, a mother, and obviously somebody's taking a picture, and it does not look big. Where do the babies go to play? What do you do? Another one where we got a little bit of a trouble. I think this is the picture that I used to have. There's kind of a cage that sticks out of a window with a baby crawling and playing in it. They used to have these kind of baby cages that would hang out of a high rise window where they could play and get outside within the cage. Here's a little bit of crowding. Any problems for public safety here? Let's see. We've got horse drawn. There's horses. So what if you spook a horse in this crowd? That's a lot of people. Think about our COVID time. See, we've talked about COVID-19 as being something that's very transmissible and has obviously done a lot of damage. But at that time, there was something called the Spanish flu, which killed over 1 million people as well. It was a pandemic about a little over 100 years ago. So the concept of a pandemic is not new. It's happened. It happens every 100 years or so. Um, but this is the Spanish flu during this particular picture's time would have been obviously running rampant. All right. Um, Anything in this picture make you not want to live there? Now there's some nice white smoke or hopefully just steam, but look at this dark black smoke that's pouring out. And this obviously is a factory with a water tower on top of it. But this would be in a city with, in the middle of a city with all kinds of residences built around it. Could you imagine what that would be like living with that kind of smoke coming out all the time? Oh, I can't even imagine. Not even fun. What do you think happened here? What do you think happened? We can see the open face of a building. The wall, open outside wall fell out. There's smoke, dust. There's debris in the streets. People looking around. What do you think happened here? Give up? It's a 1906 earthquake in San Francisco. It's one thing, again, the problem with urbanization. It's one thing when you have multiple people living together. Uh, Excuse me, it's one thing when you have just a few people in a space and it knocks down one house. It's a different thing when all of a sudden something like this happens and you've got everybody on top of each other. Think about tornadoes. It's one thing if a tornado goes through the countryside and destroys a barn and it hits a barn, and it knocks it on the ground. That's replaceable for it's devastating for one family. It's not fun, but it's replaceable. Now think about a large tornado going through the middle of a city and what kind of devastation, how many billions of dollars of damage that would do. That's kind of what we're getting at here. Okay? Here's an interesting one. I always like to show this picture. Anything wrong in this picture? Yeah, I'm guessing you're probably looking at this saying, oh my geez. Right? Well, let's see. For starters, you got the dead horse in the street, which is obviously just laying there and rotting. You've got standing water, which is an absolute festering pool for bacteria, disease, and mosquitoes. You've got open gutters that run the water that come out of the house, meaning if there's a flush toilet, it goes into the open gutter down the street. And look what the kids are sitting and playing in, the open gutter. And if they're thirsty, where do they get the water or a drink? Just reach down and grab some. Oh, my Lord. That is a nightmare right there. So, as you can imagine, this is not exactly something that is ideal. Here's what I'd like you to do now. Go back over these pictures, so you can see if you can find some modern day answers for these different things. Then, as a class, I would like you to have a discussion. How would you fix some of these problems that you're seeing here? What would you do? Have somebody write them down, and I'll look at them next week when I get back. Okay? All right.